So I managed to get the bushings finally pressed in there, but even though I did make these exactly to spec, when I pushed them in there, I found out that the ID of this guy was a couple thousandths undersized, so that unfortunately gave a little bit too much crush to the bushings, and they would no longer slide over the spindle. So what I went ahead and did just to hone, and basically it was about 1,000th undersize. So I used a 2-inch brake hone on a drill and plenty of oil, and gave those a nice hone, going all the way through on both sides, making sure that it was even. So right now these guys are about 1.5 thousandths over 1.875. Now if you guys notice back when I first started on this spindle, this was really badly marred up. So the couple important things here, I made sure to put another bushing here to protect this lower area there, and I had this top bit taped off because I only wanted to polish just literally this area. Not only this thing had gouges in it, but also had these pushed up marks, pushed up areas from the old bearing gouging it. So sandpaper would have smoothed it out, but that still would have left it these pushed up areas. So I took one of the other extra bushings that I made and slid it down the middle and made a cylinder lap, and I have a lapping compound here. And then I used the cylinder lap to go through and clean off all of as much of the damage as I could. Mostly I was concerned with the cylinder lap about just removing the crushed up areas, even though, yeah, it still has some slight, very, very slight gouging on there. I just wanted to leave that alone and make sure that I don't go undersized, but I just wanted to make sure that the spindle was perfectly cylindrical and perfectly round. So I made sure to protect the bottom area where the bowl gear gets pressed on with another extra bushing. Got the bearing that I'm going to reuse because this is in good shape. Made sure to protect this really nicely, and use the cylinder lap. That cleaned that off. Then I switched to 400 grit and polished that off using plenty of oil to keep all the bits washed away, and then switched to 800, and that left me with a reasonably nice polish. I think I might go out tomorrow and get some 1000 grit and give it a little bit more polish, but I'm happy that this is cylindrical. There are no raised up marks, which is nice. If you look real, it doesn't show up on the camera here, but there are one or two. You literally can't even drag your finger over it. The only way you can basically tell that there is any gouging here, well, you can't tell there's gouging. There's a slight discoloration right about here, and if you run your finger over it, you can maybe tell something, I don't know. But I think that's going to be good enough. So right now, as we sit, I ended up shaving about dealing with all the damage here, I ended up shaving about a thousandth off this. So we have exactly 1.5 thousandths oil clearance, and I still need to do a little bit more research, but I'm thinking about 1.5 thousandths is probably about right for oil clearance. I think I might go in here and use a Dremel and maybe add a few oil, add a few little dimples in here for oil retaining holes. So let's see how this guy fits. Dumb doing this with one hand, but okay. So I think that spins really nicely this way. And flip it over. Oops. One-handed, not smart. But what are you gonna do? I'm making a little bit more professional video on this topic, but I'll explain a few more details, but this is mostly just a little overview. And let me go ahead and flip it over. It's important to flip this over and make sure that it goes on both ways so that you know that you don't have any taper in it. So the fit is identical both ways. And okay, so I am now finally happy with the pulley on there. So I'm still investigating what I'm going to do about the precision level for the rear bearing. I think I'm going to go ahead and get some class 3 precision ones for the rear ones. The front ones are in nice shape. I'm pretty sure they're class 0. When I had it running, there was a maybe 1 to 2 thousandths at most run out in the front of the spindle. The rear bearing, it had some damage on there, so I do have to replace the rear one, but I'm going to leave the front one alone because it's quiet. There's virtually no measurable run out, and I'm happy with it. So that's where we're at. Low precision spindle build.